20 minutes after they invented film, somebody started photographing naked people.
Hollywood was a kind of Sodom on the Pacific.
Middle America was up in arms.
There were censorship boards.
Moral police.
Thou shalt not do this, you should not have that, no nudity, and nothing licentious or lecherous.
If the code movies teach us anything, it's that there are ways around stuff.
You have people making movies without the seal of approval.
It has sex, it has violence, it has the relationship between sex and violence.
Ah,
got it.
Awesome.
Jeffrey's got it all set up.
Wow, I like that backdrop.
Well, thanks.
There you go, Jeffrey. We like.
Thanks, Danny, Jim, Jeff in Las Vegas. How you doing?
How you doing,
Good.
Jeff?
How are things in Vegas?
It could be better. You know, it's like the rest of the country, but we're hit pretty hard here. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a native, but you know, one day at a time, and we'll get through it though.
Yes,
Sure.
yes, you will.
You know what, guys, watching this documentary, first of all, you know, Jim, Mr. Skin, I have been a fan of that website since the internet started, you know, so I'm on a personal level, it's a thrill to talk to you today. But also,
Well, Jeff, one quick thing,
Yeah.
on August 20th is my 21st birthday of launching Mr. Skin. So
Wow.
it's,
I can't tell you how many
Pretty
radio
amazing.
shows I've been on over the decades that just they had features about, you were on the Ken Johnson show, you know, Ken and Jim
Yeah.
Tofty in Vegas. And I mean,
Yeah.
I was always on doing movie reviews, and then you would have a segment right after me or sometimes, or
yeah.
so.
I miss those days of, boy, radio's gotten to where less and less of those kind of type of shows exist, and that's sad, but whatever.
It is.
A lot of memories.
You know, watching this documentary, I'm Generation X, you know, so Last American Virgin to Debbie Does Dallas, my whole life experience was in this documentary, you know, all these movies. And I remember when I turned 16, a week before my junior year in high school, Fast Times came out. And I mean, that just changed everybody's life in my generation. And not only that, Animal House, I just started thinking about all these movies where if you didn't see these films, and when you did, you came back and you talked to your friends specifically about the nudity or the rise of home video, you went right to those scenes, you know, it's like, so this is, and especially The Last American Virgin. I mean, that was like a big changer for me when I was growing up, with the most tragic ending ever, by the way, you know, so.
Yeah, people forget, very sad ending in that movie, right?
So how do you approach such a subject matter that has like over a century of film to consider? Who wants to tackle that?
Well, Danny, as director, probably should, so.
Well, I mean, we sort of tackle this thinking, you know, chronologically was the best way to cover it because, you know, this all started in the 1880s. I think people seem to have this impression that nudity started, you know, in the 60s or maybe European films in the 50s, but nudity was prevalent in American cinema. I mean, starting in 1880s, but, you know, the 1915 to 1930, every major American actress was doing nudity in cinema. And I think a lot of people didn't know that or realize that mainstream actresses like Annette Kellerman or Clara Bow or Claudette Colbert were all doing nudity. And it was important for us to basically go all the way back to make this, you know, a fun, comprehensive history of nudity in movies. So naturally we started when film started. And nudity began in 1887 with Edward Muybridge. And it was then kind of easy from there for us to sort of pick what were the seminal movies you can't leave out. And some are obvious and some we threw in because maybe it included the first male full frontal, like a Michael Margada in Drive He Said, which people may not know that movie, but it was one of the first movies with, you know, full male frontal nudity.
I consider myself, you know, I've been a film critic for 25 years, went to film school, a film fan my whole life. I have never heard of that movie. There were some films that you had in your documentary that I was just like, I got to check these out, especially from the 70s. So you guys really did your research.
Well, it was important, and Jim and Paul, myself, and Christine, our staff, it was very important not to leave out those movies that were the first ofs, the first full frontal, the first, you know, breast shot, the first to receive an X rating. You know, we wanted to cover those movies that sort of broke ground in this area, and then sort of pick the movies around it that were interesting, like of The Last American Virgin, like you mentioned, and then the genres. You know, you can't leave out the teen sex comedies of the 80s or the women in prison films of the 70s or the, you know, the nudie cutie and the monster nudie movies, these pretty bad movies of the late 60s and 70s. So it was fun kind of crafting and putting it together by genre, then by film, and then actually by who we can get from the movies to talk about them. And how cool is it to hear from Camille Keaton from I Spit on Your Grave?
Or Mimi Van Doren, Malcolm McDowell. I mean, and they were so cool talking about it. They weren't like hesitant or anything. They were just kind of almost celebrating it.
Yeah, these were actors and actresses that really embraced doing nudity, and they all have their stories, and that was interesting. You go in with your set of questions, as you know, and it was always important for us to ask, how did the nudity affect not only your career but your personal life? And every single person had an answer to both. How the nudity they did affected their careers, obviously, and then with Erica Gavin, her personal life, where she does a movie like Vixen. And was fresh, new, first or second film she did, goes to the premiere and sees herself, on the big screen, and it almost killed her because she started tearing apart what she looked like.
And Jim, I noticed while watching this documentary, it's definitely from an American perspective.
Oh yeah.
Because cinema is a worldwide language and worldwide art form, but it's not European perspective. It's not the Asian perspective. It's definitely American.
Yeah, listen, the main audience we're shooting for is the American audience, because it's a history of nudity in movies, and in no way did we not leave out the importance of the foreign art house films of the 50s with Brigitte Bardot and Sophia Loren. I mean, that was part of our history, because when you're a big enough celebrity, it doesn't matter if you live in London, you live in New York, Marilyn Monroe or Brigitte Bardot. I mean, it's all kind of the same. But the movie was really about what it was, the history of film, really in our country, North America, and that one of the things that Danny didn't mention when he was telling you is how did we come up with what to put in here is how freaking hard it is to narrow this down to a 2-hour documentary, because there were so many important moments. If we had to do worldwide and everything, I don't know how you could possibly do it comprehensively. But the cool thing is our 2 hours of the history of nudity in the movies is the best of the best, because boy, there were just so many things to choose from. And
finally today, the rise of the internet really took away the shock of nudity in movies, didn't it? I mean, now when I look at those, they're just kind of tame. Depending on certain films, but overall, it's just kind of novel to watch some of these older films now.
Yeah, I think also that what's happened in the last 10 years with the advent of Netflix and Amazon and Hulu is there's just so much more nudity that's available to us. I remember when I started in '99, I'd have my Tuesday movie releases on DVD. That was a big day. And then there were a few TV shows back then that had nudity. Now, gosh, there's both for female and male, it's in the hundreds how many different places across over 30 platforms you could find nudity. So nudity is, believe it or not, Jeff, we're in the golden age of celebrity nudity as far as access. I mean, there's never been more nudity available to the American public than there is now. It's not all coming from movies, obviously, but to me, movies and television it's all the same at this stage is how I look at it.
Well, Danny, Jim, congratulations on a great documentary. I need to watch it again to tell you the truth. And it's informative, it's educational, and it's damn entertaining. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think it's a lot of fun, and it was very fun for us to do it. It was a 2-year labor of love, and I'm so happy you enjoyed it.
Well, we'll see you in Las Vegas soon. You guys come visit and we'll talk more.
You got it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.
Take care. Thank you.